The safe is gone. One day, the safe I had in my bedroom at home suddenly disappeared. Police, I have to call the police. Hey, wait a minute. My husband tried to calm me down with a frantic voice as I panicked. Calling the police, how exaggerated. I took this safe that was here. What? Why did you take it without permission? That money is my savings. What on earth did you spend $300K for? To my words, my husband shook his head as if to say, oh well. Your money is my money, right? I bought a house to live in with my mother. What? I was going to tell you in a little while, but now you know, I'm not going to tell you. Let's get a divorce. Now that I got your savings, I don't need a penniless person like you anymore. What a surprise. I couldn't even feel like protesting against my husband, who was sitting there looking so self-righteous. All right, I wish you and your mother happiness, though. Thank you for being so sensible. See ya. Watching my husband happily walk away, I was filled with gratitude. Honestly, it was convenient for me that my husband had taken the safe. I had planned to ruin his life with what was inside that safe. Never thought he would self-destruct. Wishing them happiness. I must be bad too. My name is Natalie. I'm a 35-year-old working housewife. I live in a local city with my husband, David, and our daughter. I met David about 10 years ago. After graduating from college, I was introduced to David by a coworker at my new job. David had a gentle face and a calm personality that didn't like conflict. Our relationship started from being friends, but it didn't take long for us to start dating. Then, after 5 years of dating, we started talking about marriage. By that time, we were both in our late 20s and wanted children, so it was natural to talk about it. So, David and I decided to get married. Then, the year after our marriage, we had the child we had longed for. Our adorable child. And so, our family grew to 3. Our daughter grew up so fast. Watching her grow was the happiest thing for me. She started walking on her own, began to speak, and eventually started going to preschool. But not everything was perfect. Naturally, there were fights and struggles with parenting. But each time, we looked for solutions. A smooth married life. However, I had one worry. Well, it's more of a slight concern than a worry, but it's something that bothers me. It's about David's mother, my Mill. My Mill lives alone near our house. Until the year before last, my Phil lived with her, but since he passed away, she now lives alone. My Mill, who loved my Phil dearly, was very depressed and stayed inside the house for a while. But recently, she seems to have sorted out her feelings and started going out more, gradually smiling more too. It was indeed a good thing, but at the same time, it turned into a bit of a problem. Mill was originally very caring and often looked after our family. However, even well-intentioned care can become a nuisance if it's too much. For instance, she would use her spare key to enter our house when David and I were at work and our daughter was at preschool, then go on to cook or even rearrange the furniture. Not just that, she would often butt in with her opinions on our future family planning or house building plans. Natalie, welcome home. I've made dinner for you. Oh, and I did the laundry too, so just bring it in once it's dry. Thank you, but really, you don't have to go to all this trouble for us. We can manage on our own. Though, no. Don't be shy. We're a family. You could even rely on me more. Oh, yeah, I'll redecorate the bedroom next time. Although I know she means well, it still doesn't sit right with me. I don't think she's doing it to be mean or malicious, but that's exactly why it's so troublesome. I don't want to outright dismiss Mill's kindness, and when I talk to my mom friends about it, some even agree with her actions, so it's not easy to complain. I once brought it up with David, but in the end, nothing changed. Hey honey, about your mom. My mom means no harm. Just let it slide. Besides, she's helping out with cleaning and cooking, so it's not really something to fuss about, right? We should be grateful, actually. But at least she should say something in advance. Come on, stop nagging. So, you want me to tell her? What you're doing is a nuisance, so don't show your face again. Is that what you want? Whenever it comes to Mill, this is how David ends up sulking. David is usually kind and gentle, but when it comes to his mom, it's a different story. Being an only child, and with his dad passed away, he probably feels it's his duty to protect his mom, but I just can't seem to accept that side of David. Then, one day, I was off work that day, and the whole family slept soundly until before 9 o'clock. I woke up thinking of having some coffee, and went to the kitchen. As I was filling the electric kettle with water, I suddenly remembered I had left my smartphone in the bedroom. Deciding to go back to the bedroom to get it while the kettle was heating, I thought David and our daughter would still be asleep. Trying not to wake them, I gently opened the bedroom door. As I expected, both were sleeping soundly. Careful not to make a noise, I picked up my smartphone from beside the bed. That's when I noticed the walk-in closet door was slightly ajar. Was it open last night? I didn't remember opening it, so perhaps David had taken out some clothes. Approaching the walk-in closet to close it, I felt something was off. A bad feeling washed over me, and I flung the door open. No way, the safe is gone. Forgetting David and our daughter were sleeping, I exclaimed in surprise. What to do? Never did I imagine such a situation, and I stood frozen in panic until it hit me. I have to call the police, right? I began to fiddle with my smartphone when David woke up. Ick. What's all the noise about this early? You'll wake her up. David said that, yawning leisurely. It's just that the safe that was here is gone. So, I thought I should call the police. I was about to press the call button when David, for some reason, hastily stopped me. Hey, wait a minute. Calling the police, how exaggerated. Exaggerated. How is it exaggerated? The safe is missing. This is definitely a serious incident. As I said this, David seemed to hesitate, opening and closing his mouth. Clearly, something was off with David. He might know something about the situation. I decided to confront David. Is there something you want to say? If not, I'm calling the police right now. Still, David remained silent for a moment but finally opened up. I had the safe, and the bank book as well. I was so surprised I couldn't close my mouth. Then I quickly calmed down and checked the storage box where the bank book was kept. Indeed, it was gone. I turned back to David. Perhaps because he had told the truth, David looked relieved, completely ignoring how I felt. That only irritated me even more. Why did you take it without permission? That money is my savings. What on earth did you spend $300K for? To my words, my husband shook his head as if to say, oh well. Your money is my money, right? I bought a house with that money. I decided to build it a little more rural than here, so for $300K I can live in a pretty big house. Don't do things on your own. A bit more rural. What about your job? And I have my job too, not to mention our daughter has to change preschools. I couldn't help but raise my voice, but I couldn't care less at the moment. Seemingly offended, David furrowed his brow. Then he said something even more outrageous. You've got it all wrong. The house I bought is for me and my mother to live in together. You didn't like my mother, didn't you? What son would just sit back and ignore the fact that his mother was being disrespected? Huh? Do you even understand what you're saying? That's ridiculous. Of course, I retorted, but David just yelled, be quiet, and went on with his unilateral decision. Anyway, I have no use for you now that you're penniless. I'll give you custody, so let's get a divorce. Got it. I was so dismayed by my husband's arrogant posture that I couldn't even feel like protesting anymore. Then, perhaps startled by the loud voice, our daughter woke up. I lifted her body from the bed and held her, choosing his mother over our adorable daughter. Then he might as well do as he likes. That's what I decided. All right, we'll get a divorce. I wish you and your mother happiness. When I said that, David smiled. That's right, as long as you understand. Here, the divorce papers. To my astonishment, David had already prepared the divorce papers. He went to the next room and came back immediately, thrusting the divorce papers at me. David's signature was already on it. Then leave that for me. I'm going back to my parents' house now. After saying that, David started packing his things. I found myself staring at David's profile for a while. He felt like a completely different person from when we started dating. The David I loved was no longer here. Mommy, I'm hungry. Our daughter in my arms seemed completely oblivious to the situation and said in her cute voice, "Yeah, let's have breakfast." With that, I left the bedroom. A few days after the commotion, I was spending time at home with our daughter. I had taken some time off work for a while. Getting a divorce meant I had to explain the situation to my company and take care of paperwork. So, after summarizing the events to my boss, I was told to take it easy using up some of my remaining paid leave. I'll have to repay the favor when I return to work. I told our daughter about the divorce. I think it's hard for a young child to understand everything, but I still explained as much as possible. Then, our daughter said, "Maybe Dad likes Grandma more." And stopped talking about David. How heartbreaking. I have to protect her, and I won't let her live a life of hardship. Mom, the phone is ringing. Apparently, I had zoned out for a long time and hadn't noticed the incoming call. Thank you. Play for a bit while I take this call, I told my daughter, and picked up the smartphone. The LCD displayed David. I had been expecting a call around this time. I answered the call. "Yes, this is Natalie." Then David started talking hastily. Finally, you picked up. "Hey, Natalie, what's the meaning of this? Why is this inside the safe? Explain yourself." David almost cried out in his voice. "You'll understand when you see it. No, you'll know it when you hear it. That recording is proof of your and your mother's deviousness. I already know all about it. You took the safe because your mother instigated you to do so, right? Well, it's your fault, too, for falling for it. Yes, it was Mill's doing that David unilaterally took the safe and bought a house. I had known for a while that Mill had her eyes on the safe. It happened when Mill entered our home as usual, thinking I was out, and headed straight to the bedroom without acknowledging me in the living room. Curious about what she was doing, I secretly observed her. Then, I saw Mill opening the walk-in closet and fiddling around before she quickly left. Checking the spot where Mill had been, I found the safe was scratched, possibly with some tool. A couple of days later, the safe was gone, and after a conflict with David, I remembered that incident. "So, when did you record this? You weren't there when we had that conversation, were you?" So you hadn't noticed. I was there at that time, too. That's why there's a recording. The day after David thrust the divorce papers at me, I went to my in-laws' house. The divorce and the money already spent were irreversible, but I couldn't rest without saying something to Mill. Upon arriving at my in-laws' house, an idea crossed my mind. I'll give them a taste of their own medicine. I actually had a duplicate key to my in-laws' house, so I decided to enter their house without permission, just like Mill, and give them a scare. It was a modest form of revenge. As soon as I entered with the spare key, I heard David and Mill's voices talking about the house they bought in the countryside. I quickly activated the recording app on my smartphone. Mill laughed triumphantly, beginning a conversation with David about how they successfully got hold of my savings as planned. That's when I finally realized Mill's scheme. I was so angry I thought about confronting them right there, but I held back and kept recording. After most of their conversation was over, I went home, copied the recording onto a USB drive, and returned to the in-laws' house. So, I put that USB drive in the safe. Surprised, after I told the truth, David went silent. Then, another voice came from the phone. "Hey, what do you think you're doing with this? The money's already spent, so doing this is pointless. Stop harassing us," Mill screamed. Indeed, as Mill said, the money had been spent, and there were only a few $1,000s left in the safe. "No, it's not pointless. I heard that you bought the house through a real estate company where one of David's friends works, right?" "Yes, what about it? That person is also a friend of mine." "No, or rather, he was originally my friend, and I introduced him to David. What would happen if I let him hear this recorded data? Maybe he would deliver it to the police, or maybe he would stop building the house and give me a refund. In that case, there might be a penalty or a cancellation fee." The real estate agent being my friend was true, but the rest was mostly bluff. However, it seemed to have a profound effect on Mill as her voice started to tremble over the phone. It's because you were hoarding the money for no reason. We were just using it to help. What are we supposed to do if we can't live in the new house? You'll have to sort it out then." Mill was speaking nonsense. I don't understand what you're saying. We're strangers now, so please do as you please, I said dismissively, and Mill made a pitiful sound, but I ignored it and hung up. This finally gave me a bit of relief. After the call from David and my former mill, I contacted my friend at the real estate company. After explaining the situation, he sympathized deeply and astonishingly refunded my money. Although I had hoped for it, I didn't really expect it to happen. My friend said it was because of our old friendship, but also because he disliked dishonest people like David and my former mill. Either way, getting my money back was all that mattered. However, the construction of the house David and former mill bought apparently couldn't be cancelled. My friend said they will have to pay it off, even if it takes decades. As a result, both David and former mill had to work desperately to repay the loan. But David had already quit his job to move to the countryside. There are no companies willing to hire a man in his 40s as a full-time employee in the countryside, so he's barely making ends meet with day labor. Meanwhile, I used the refunded money to buy a unit in a new condominium, where I decided to live with my biological parents and daughter. Without a husband, my parents agreed to support us. As my daughter slept with her head on my lap, I vowed, I won't let her become a dishonest person like David or former mill. I'll raise her to be sincere. And I will definitely make her happy. I decided that